Hello and thank you for joining us on Tuesday's edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Esther Mopariola. Today on the program, Army raises alarm over terrorists' massive recruitment of new members as authorities shut down telecommunications network in 14 local government areas in Sokoto State over rampant banditry. Governor Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State signs the anti-open grazing bill into law. And later on the show, report says Nigeria needs additional 300 hospitals and 8,000 doctors to provide standard health care. I will be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju and Olabisi Deji Folutile. Journalist Hangout starts now. Right, the decade-long Boko Haram insurgency in the Nigeria's northeast is becoming some sort of a hydra-headed monster that produces more branches than the more it is cut, rather. Now, the Director of Army Public Relations, Brigadier General Onyeama Nwachukwu, has raised the alarm over commencement of massive recruitment of new members of the Islamic State of West Africa Province, ISWAP. While speaking at the headquarters of the Theatre Command of Operation Hadin Kai in Maiduguri, Borno State, Brigadier General Nwachukwu asked members of the public to be on the lookout in their environment. Meanwhile, Sokoto State government has shut down telecommunications networks in 14 of the 23 local government areas of the state due to rampant banditry. Well, it joins Zamfara, Katsina on the list of states that have taken the punitive stance. Babajide, when we see stories like this of concerns with the terrorist attacks, growing out of control, this report now stirs some level of worry, wouldn't you say, that it seems like this is getting out of control, too much to handle by the security forces? What are your thoughts on what's happening right now in the Northeast?
Yes, I think it just underlines the need for us to be vigilant and to know that these terrorists are not joking with us. They are not joking at all. In the areas in control of ISWAP, Nigerian territories that they are in control of, they are constantly recruiting people. They're offering them money. We have pictures of ISWAP giving money and food to people. I wish the producer can produce those pictures quickly, because pictures tell the stories. Can you see? These are ISWAP men giving money to young people. You can see how young they are. If you can give money to people this young, as they grow older, they get fully indoctrinated. This is ISWAP men. These are ISWAP men giving food stuff to people. This is not fiction. This is true. These terrorist groups, they have their own websites and all that, their own propaganda websites where they post some of these pictures. And these pictures were obtained from such places. Look, they are giving money. You can see that is the ISWAP logo, So in the areas that they control, on the Nigerian territory in their control, this is what they do. They also allow farmers to farm and tell them that, look, nothing will happen to you so long as you are prepared to pay us tax, pay us taxation. We will allow you to grow. There are pictures. I've seen pictures of lush green vegetation, people being allowed to plant, in areas that ISWAP controls, areas dominated by ISWAP. It's a regular thing for Nigerians, for us to be told that they don't control anywhere. But it's only someone who has trained his mind to believe whatever is told that will still believe that there's no part of Nigeria that terrorists are not in control. Even bandits. The bandits in the northwest, there are places now that they have turned to their own home. They've chased away our people from their habitations. They have now taken over such villages, especially in Zamfara State. So this is the fact. areas that they control, they are liable to recruit as many people as possible from those areas by deceiving them, lying to them that, look, we represent a better alternative, an alternative to government. The government has forgotten you, but we value you. Whatever you want to achieve, you can achieve under our leadership. That is exactly what ISWAP wants. And once they do that and they lure people with money, they will get more fighters. And it is not in Nigeria alone that they are recruiting fighters. You go to Niger Republic. In Niger Republic, that is the same way they are recruiting young people. So some of the fighters who come here to kill people in Nigeria, they are not Nigerians. So the question to ask is, where do they get them? Their recruitment drive is not limited to Nigeria. With all the confusion in Mali, in Niger Republic, I've always described it as some form of a failed state. Or let me just, to make them happy, I can say Niger Republic is a semi-failed state. Areas bordering Mali, a lot of things are happening there that you don't even want to talk about. So with Nigeria bordered by a semi-failed state, a lot of these things will happen. Our borders are porous, so they will come in, you know. Fighters that can't speak a word of Nigerian language will come into our country to kill our people because they've been recruited from outside of our country. I saw when the Chadians overran the Boko Haram base around the Lake Chad islands. There were some of the fighters who were wearing dreadlocks. I still have the videos. So you ask yourself, dreadlocks, so these are not our people from northern Nigeria, for example. I mean, I relate with people of Borno State very well. You see clearly that these are not people from Borno State. These are not Nigerians. Such people in that part of the country wearing dreadlocks, no, these are foreign fighters who come into our country. They need them. So they will pay. Remember also that the army once alerted us, I think it was the former spokesman of the army, SK Usman, who alerted us that in Madagali area of Adamawa State, Boko Haram was offering young people loans, soft loans. And when you are unable to pay back, you get conscripted to come and fight on their side. So these things have been happening. It just means that we need to be more vigilant and identify the places that they control and take them out. The places that they control, we should take those places out. I've mentioned some of those communities in their hand, but I don't want to do that again.
All right, so let's quickly get your thoughts on this, Olabisi. Quite, it's really pathetic situation if you analyze this really. But if this is a fault of bad governance and poverty that we see in the Northeast, what dangers lies ahead?
Yeah, let me start by saying that there is a psychology behind terrorism. And basically that is what Babajide has analyzed. In that terrorists look for people that are deprived and they try to, occupy the position of government in the lives of such people. And what happens is that these young children, for example, the one that we saw there, they are likely to grow up to embrace terrorism because it's something that gave them hope when they were growing up. You can see that they were giving them money, food stuff. Now, we need to ask ourselves, we are talking about poverty. That is a sure result of poverty, a poverty-stricken community. And it's also a show of absence of governance and impact of governance in the lives of the people in such communities. So we cannot differentiate terrorism from poverty, from lack of governance, so to say. So in the northeastern states where we are having terrorism, you could see that these communities are actually far behind in amenities, social amenities, in government presence, and all of that. So for them, the terrorists are sort of filling a space that is available that government is not occupying. And I want to believe that it's one of the reasons why terrorism is thriving in such states and communities. Then how do we tackle it? If we understand the problems, the foundation of the problem, then until we begin to tackle this foundation, we may not really get anywhere. Because these terrorists, they have a project, they have a psychology behind their activities which they follow, and there are studies that show that that is the way they operate all over the world. So as long as we have a situation where there is failure of government, we are likely to have some bandits, terrorists taking over the position of government and, luring people to their side. And let me tell you, here in Nigeria now, I think people in these communities are likely to obey the terrorists more than they will obey government, because they see the terrorists even more than they see government officials. So it's a very complex situation, but I think far the foundation is poverty, is deprivation, is lack of government's presence and attention to the needs of the people.
Now, Babajide, before we move away from this issue now, you mentioned something quite, interesting, which is the borders. Our borders are porous, and we've seen a lot of foreigners come into the northern region. You identified some of them to have some, dreads and all of that. But we've been talking about this. It's more like a repetition all the time. What can we do now to strengthen our borders? If we are to say, okay, these people that are causing the troubles are not Nigerians, they are outsiders, what can we do to strengthen the borders for the safety and security of those who are always affected?
The truth is, terrorists don't use the conventional border posts. They have their own illegal entry points into our country. And where Niger Republic has extensive borders with Nigeria stretching to about 900 kilometers, there's very little we can do. There's very little we can do, given the fact that we don't even have enough manpower to police those borders. Besides the fact that we do not have enough manpower for terrorists, I don't think men of the immigration service can stand up to Boko Haram if they want to come into Nigeria from maybe Niger Republic.
So what can we do differently?
I don't think they have the firepower.
What can we do differently?
Honestly, remember the president was asked this same question and he said, he turned to God. We can come here, speak English, make all kinds of postulations in terms of securing our borders, given the current state of things. Look, I've seen bandits kidnap customs men in Sokoto. We've seen bandits kill customs men, FRSC men in Nasarawa. So the point that we are making is, look, we need to get more serious. We've talked about the need to recruit more soldiers, recruit more policemen. We are not doing well in that area, and we don't have enough. Let me tell you, in Borno State, there are communities that the army has snatched from Boko Haram at least 4 times, because we don't have enough manpower to occupy to put boots on ground in those places, to secure them by putting troops on ground, they come back. Especially if it's a strategic place, they come back. So what do you do? Some of the strategic routes through which they bring weapons in, Boko Haram will fight, will do whatever it costs to make sure that they are in control of that area. I've seen communities in Borno State that I looked at where I know that soldiers were slaughtered, dozens of soldiers slaughtered, and I asked myself, what is the value of this community? Just a dusty town. But the terrorists who are doing whatever it takes to hold on to that place, they have a reason. And they know one thing: if they attack an army base in a location 2-3 times with heavy equipment and human casualty on the side of the army, we will leave that base for them. I've seen it happen. We just ask ourselves whether does it make sense to remain here. We've seen it happen. So if we do not have enough manpower, currently the manpower to police the extensive and extremely porous border with Niger Republic, I don't think we have it. Some time ago, somebody suggested that we could build a wall. As we have seen with the Americans, building a wall around your country is no guarantee that illegal aliens won't come in. You can see what the Mexicans are doing to Americans, despite how serious they are about policing their borders. But in our own case, I don't think we have the funds at this stage to build a wall around our country to secure our borders. Technology can help. In my view, if we invest sufficiently in drones, that's the way, the direction the whole world is going now. If we invest in drones, there are drones now that can last up to a month. They can be airborne for up to a month. They use solar. They are powered by solar. They can stay airborne for so long. They can monitor those critical areas that we deem critical, that we know that we must secure. But in terms of trying to use human beings, I don't think there's a lot that we can do. Maybe technology can help.
All right, still on the issue of banditry, let's move on to Sokoto, which has shut down telecommunications networks in 14 of 23 local government areas in the state. What do you make of this move, Abajide? Do you think perhaps this will give the desired expectations that it will curtail the rising level of banditry in Sokoto State?
Well, maybe because of some success that was recorded in Zamfara, they are thinking that they have to extend it to Sokoto. Yes, I think it makes sense. Banditry is a problem in Sokoto as well. As you can see, even last weekend, they killed about 6 bandits in Tangaza. You know, the people were just tired and they decided to take the law into their hands. They slaughtered these guys and set them ablaze. You know, now places like Isa, Sabombrini, Tureta, all of those places, especially communities along the border with Niger Republic, we need to stop banditry in those areas. And the information is that they are even coming in from Zamfara now. They are facing the heat in Zamfara. They are coming to Sokoto. Ideally, the operation should be simultaneous.
Right.
If we don't make it simultaneous, it will not succeed because they will run away.
All right, I understand we have a call from Enugu. Victor, please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, good evening, panel. Please invite me to please, my own take is this. What are we doing about this Super Tucano that we got? I thought they said that the Super Tucano can help us in fighting these animals. Then number 2, how about this drone that Chinese drone, one Chinese drone? You know, can't we invest in it, buy a lot of them? Then again, I'm still surprised why this Nigerian security forces cannot pinpoint where these animals are. If ordinary, sorry to say this, ordinary Babajide knows one or two places that they are, why can't Nigerian security forces go there with hammer, hammer, everything, just everything, destroy them once and for all? Let us breathe. I keep on hearing how we lost all.
Victor, my apologies, we cannot go further with that conversation, but thank you very much for your input on the show. So, Olabisi, before we wrap up this segment, what's your thoughts on what's happening in Sokoto with regards to shutting down of about half, more than half, of the networks in telecommunication networks to, you know, to reduce the rate of banditry in the state? Do you think perhaps it will yield any positive result?
Absolutely, absolutely. But the question is, for how long can this last? It worked in Zamfara, for instance, and that is why Sokoto State Governor decided to do that, knowing that they were fleeing from Zamfara to Sokoto State. And also in Katsina too, it was done in about 13 local government areas. I think it's going to give a temporary relief, right? However, as that is being done, we also need to work on things that will result into permanent solutions.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for permanent solutions, what would you prefer?
Well, I think technology is key. Right. For example, all this, why do you have to even shut down telephones in the first instance when you can actually trace these terrorists through their telephone numbers and all of that? They have data with these telecommunication companies that could have easily be assessed and used in the first instance. So I think we need to do more of that in actually getting at them rather than, you know, shutting down, because there are also other people in these states that are not bandits or terrorists who are being affected by this total shutdown.
All right, let's quickly move on to our next issue of discuss. Now, the move by governors in the southern part of Nigeria to stop open grazing intensifies. On Monday, the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, signed the bill to prohibit open grazing and trespass of cattle on land in the state into law. Well, by this action, Lagos has joined the League of States in southern Nigeria to have anti-open grazing law in place. Well, the law is coming more than 2 weeks after the September 1st deadline set by the Southern Governors Forum. Well, let's share the story of the signing of the bill by Adedoja Salam Adeniyi with you. All right, it seems we're yet to have that report. Well, let's quickly continue with our discussions here in the studio. Babajide, with the signing of this bill now, do you think perhaps, you know, let me ask this question. What do you think about this bill? How effective do you think it will be to curtail these issues of farmer-herders clashes in the south?
Well, by conception, I could say that it's a well thought out idea. We must do whatever we can to stop the constant friction between farmers and herdsmen. We call it farmer-herders crisis, but actually what goes on, what is happening is trespass on farmers' farmlands. When you march your cattle into people's farmlands, you've committed an act of terror against such people, because you can imagine if you and I decided that we were going to farming and we didn't have a piece of land, and we walked up to BC and said, BC, we understand there's a piece of land that you are not using currently. Esther and I would like to use it to farm. And she said, okay, at this time I'm ready to sell. And we bought a piece of land from her for a hefty sum. After that, we decided to plant on it. We planted beans. Just when it was getting close to harvest time, the criminal herdsman decided to march cattle into
the farmland.
Mark my words, I said when it was getting close to harvest time. Now, having pinned your hopes on harvesting bountifully from that piece of land that BC sold to you or to both of us, how would you feel if someone just decided to match his cattle on that farmland and decided to eat our crops, eat everything that we planted? Your blood will boil. This is what, in fact, there are people who never recover from such attacks on their means of livelihood. When herdsmen complain about cattle rustling, it's as bad matching your cattle onto people's lands or farmlands is as terrible as cattle rustling. It's the same mental agony that you face, that the farmer faces. Because you set him back. All the hard work gone. So this is what we are saying. In Kwara State, for example, there was the Nigerian retired naval general. Not only did they eat up his crops, they also set the farm ablaze. And why? Because they know when you set the farm ablaze, it triggers a fresh sprouting of grass, which is
good for the cattle.
Yes. So you can imagine. You are destroying people's lives. And that's why, based on the loss of lives that we experience from time to time when these people, when farmers and herdsmen tango, governments, state governments are now saying, look, we've got to do something about this. So that's why Lagos State, after the House passed the bill on the 9th of September, Governor Sanwo-Olu has now signed it into law. It's not a big problem in Lagos. Lagos does not even have
cases of such.
They don't have expansive forests and farmlands like other states, like other states. But the governor does not want it to happen here. It's not a problem here, per se. We hardly read about that.
Theories.
But at the same time, the government believes that this should not even be allowed to happen. It's not going to wait until it comes before it takes action.
All right, let's quickly go on a very quick break. You're still on to Journalist Hangout. We'll have more discussions on this very issue after this. Stay with us. Welcome back. We're still on the issue revolving the southern part of Nigeria, stopping the open grazing, and the Lagos State government has signed the anti-open grazing law bill into law. So, Olabisi, apologies. Now that we have this, signing done in Lagos State, presumably we should also be seeing the same thing in the other parts of the southern region of the country. But before the signing, the Cattle Association, the Breeders Association, have raised concerns that if this comes to be, the price of cattle will go up to as much as 2 million naira per cow. And that means people will find it very difficult to afford even maybe just a portion, or maybe say a kilogram of meat, for instance, to cook. So what are your expectations? Do you think perhaps people should, use or go to another alternative, or what do you make of what's happening?
Well, I would say that is sheer blackmail to start with. I mean, to say that because of signing into law of anti-grazing bill, or because you are prevented from doing open grazing, then it means that automatically the price of cow will go to 2 million naira. Well,
the reason why he says so is because most of the cows will be ranched, and it's quite expensive to, take cattle from ranching cattle rather, as against moving them from place to place.
It depends on his understanding of ranching. What ranching. It's keeping these cattle in one particular place and now providing their food for them. It's not going to, initially, you may need to spend some money, but looking at it from the business perspective, you also know that this is a business venture. And interestingly, it has been proved from studies that cattle that are ranched produce better. Mm-hmm. They get greater fat, they grow more easily, and you can even sell them
at a higher price
and at an earlier time than the ones that walk about. Because those ones that are just trekking for 1 million kilometers, they have even trekked all the nutrients in their body as they are going about. So for me, well, but if they must sell for 2 million naira, good luck to them. You understand? Good luck to them. Whoever can afford to buy, we buy. And those who cannot afford to buy, we look for alternatives. After all, cow meat is not the only meat in this world.
So what other alternatives do we have if we're to live cow
We have bush meat, we have fish, we have turkey, we have chicken, we have different kinds of fishes. You can even, maybe people can even decide to be having small fish ponds in their compounds. You don't even need to be inside water to do fish pond now. They use rubber tanks. We will innovate and we will get things. We will even eat more healthy food. After all, they tell us that fish and all the rest, white meat is better than red meat. And cow, isn't it red meat? So let's even fast for our people to stay alive. If we need to fast off cow, then it's not a bad idea. At least let people be alive, then let there be peace. Then let's run this business as it should be run. Let people know that cattle, the business in cattle is a business. And you cannot continue to discomfort other people for your own comfort. And you cannot continue to claim ownership of other people's property just because you are doing your own business. Just look at the analysis that Babajide did. You cannot be killing other people's businesses for your own to thrive. So it's a good thing, no matter what it brings. Let's just prepare ourselves.
Right,
as you look at Wasiu, and the musician, this is his farm. He's not practicing open grazing. You know, so it's camel. They are fed at the same spot, everything that they need. The vet doctors will come and see them right there. Those ones that are roaming about, which vet doctor takes care of them? You know?
Yeah, with this, bill, is it, let's look at implementation. That is another key area now. It's one thing to sign this bill into law. It's another thing to implement this bill. Do you think perhaps we have that commitment to implement the bill or implement the law, as it were, so that people can sleep, with their 2 eyes closed?
In Lagos.
And also in other parts of the South.
The level of implementation may vary from place to place. The level of implementation in Oyo, for example, because Oyo is a very big state, compared to other southwest states, is easily the biggest state in the southwest and one of the biggest in the south. So Oyo is big, and there are so many grazing areas. Some of them inherited from even the First Republic administration. So headers had always targeted that area. Oyo is like the food basket of the southwest. They've always targeted that area, But in Lagos, the entire grazing area is very small. Lagos is the smallest state in our country, and the grazing area is small. So in such a situation, I fancy the chances of the security agents effectively enforcing the law here in Lagos. And when you also look at even the police in Lagos, in terms of the way the police is run in Lagos, is the best I've seen of all the states in our country. The RRS, very well organized, they have technology, they have everything to do their work well. Now, you go to Ondo State. The governor of Ondo State has already shown clearly that he's not messing around over this matter. In fact, the day after the bill was signed into law, arrests were made. Arrests were made. Which is like he's saying, look, I'm not joking about this matter. You know? So the stipulations are there. The government in Ondo State, for example, is saying, come and acquire land on lease for you to do your ranching. You register your cattle. If any cattle is seen roaming around our streets, it gets arrested and it will be auctioned
for sale
publicly. So the stipulations are there. The Lagos law is also saying that you must not be found with an assault rifle, an assault weapon, like AK-47, for example. What are you doing with AK-47? That means you are out to kill. If you get caught, it's a long jail term. So there's enough deterrence by the letters of the law. But as I agree with you that the devil is in the implementation of the law.
Absolutely. But let's take this call. We have David on the line from Lagos. David, if you're there, please go ahead with your contribution.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good
please
evening,
go ahead.
Dave.
I'm David calling from Lagos.
Yeah.
Yeah, first of all, congratulations for the award.
Thank you, my brother.
Yes, God bless you very much. Well, that's an indication that the entire world is enjoying your programs and also the value you are adding to our lives and the security of Nigeria also.
Thank you.
That's number one.
Bless you. Yeah.
Yes, I want to say that the herdsmen, they are justifying the reason why they are carrying AK-47 and the rest, just to prevent cattle rustlers. In the same way, assuming the farmers also are also carrying guns and AK-47, just staying in their farms also to prevent the herdsmen or the cows from grazing on their farmlands, destroying their futures. It should have been a different ballgame entirely. So I just want the herders to understand that the pain they get when the rustlers come, that's exactly the kind of pain the farmers also get when their futures are being destroyed. Thank you very much. That's my contribution.
Thank you very much, David, for that contribution. Finally, Labisi, what's your final thoughts on this matter before we go to the next issue of discussion?
Yeah, I think Lagos State government needs to do more than what they have done right now. They need to also do a lot of publicity and public enlightenment around the provisions of the law, so that people will know what the provisions are and what the punishment is and how they can also report, because the security operatives might not be everywhere at every time, so that if you see others, you know, around your community doing this or doing that, this is the former channel of reporting the problem and all of that. I think they should just do that and also focus on the implementation of the law, so that it doesn't appear as if just a law that is there just for being their sake.
And for those who do not understand exactly how this will affect them, for instance, the cattle rearers, now they feel that, oh, it is all targeted at their business. How can they be assuaged, you know, to understand what this law means, not just for them, but for the unity of the country as a whole? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I think I will also encourage enlightenment campaigns. You know, you can organize meetings with these others. You can go to meet them where they are in their markets. They even have associations, and they have communities where they reside. Just try to persuade, to talk to them, let them see reason. At least that is a good way of communicating, because sometimes we have problems when we don't communicate well. Somebody is perceiving something else, whereas you are doing something else. So let's just bridge that gap in communication by doing the enlightenment campaigns and services, and I know Lagos State knows what to do around that.
All right, so we quickly move on to our next issue of discussion. The health sector in Nigeria is bedeviled with dearth of infrastructure, and personnel is not in doubt. Now, the level of intervention needed to bridge the gap is what is amiss. But according to a report on the outlook of Nigerian real estate market for 2021, the country needs more than 300 hospitals and 8,000 doctors to have standard health care for its citizens. Well, how far can the country go with this? Babajide, recently we have the doctors on strike. Right now the doctors are on strike, and there isn't any, we don't have any headway between the two parties involved, and we are having this report saying we need 300 hospitals for 8,000 doctors. How feasible?
If we had followed the health plan, the national health plan religiously, we will have more primary health centers, we will have general hospitals in each of the local governments, we will have in each of the primary health centers, we will have a medical doctor superintending affairs, supervising the nurses, the doctors, probably dentists, and other people. But what we have is, apart from Lagos and probably Rivers State, in most of our states, the primary health centers do not have medical doctors who are called MOH. Their duty is to supervise nurses and other junior people. We built those primary health centers and refused to ensure that there is someone of the level of a medical doctor who superintends the affairs. So if we look at the whole scenario, I don't think of all the 774 local governments in our country that we have up to 50 primary health centers with a doctor resident. You get the point that I'm making? And that's not so. You can imagine that's already a huge deficit. We are supposed to have 774 MOH personnel in each of the primary health centers. Now, even the primary health centers, we are not using them optimally for the purpose, yes, that they were designed. People suffer headache, they go straight to the tertiary health facility, because that is where you have a lot of consultants, senior people, specialists, and the rest. It is cases that can be handled at primary and secondary health facilities that should actually get up to tertiary, because the guys there are also supposed to be research fellows as well. But there's no time for research. There's no everyone. That is where people are. One of the big problems that we have, beyond the fact that doctors are leaving our country for other places, is the fact that we even have a problem of distribution of medical personnel. The rural centers of our country do not have enough medical personnel. And I'm talking about medical personnel across board, not just doctors, other categories of health workers. We don't have enough in the rural areas. Everyone wants to come to the urban center and end up at maybe Lut. Lut, for example, will have up to not less than 700 medical doctors. Whereas a good number of those 700 should actually be in the secondary and primary healthcare centers. Yes. And you look at an hospital like, what is it called in Ibadan? UCH. UCH will probably have up to 1,000 doctors working at UCH. How many of those guys are actually needed there? We need them more in the secondary health centers, like the general hospital, for example, because UCH is like a reference hospital. It's like a center of excellence. That's the way the national hospital was designed. It was supposed to be, the national hospital was designed to be a veritable center of excellence. But what we have today, somebody walking inside his kitchen, he suffers a night court, they are taking him to national hospital. That was not what it was designed for. Because those guys should actually be concentrating on research and other things, but they have no time because they are busy attending to regular
knife cuts,
regular health. They are providing regular health care. That should not be their work. So beyond the fact that we don't have enough, the point that I'm making is that even the distribution, there is a big problem about the distribution of health personnel that we have in our country. Some of them should actually be in the
primary and health
secondary health centers.
But what do you take to have these ones, be distributed to these areas that are really of concern? Because I think some of the motivational factor you would say is they don't have that drive for them to be working in such places, or is it the facility, or is it that they don't have enough equipment?
It's the system has encouraged that kind of situation. For example, a general hospital should have no less than 25 medical doctors. So across board, 25 times 774. Can see that is that huge. It's huge because each of those doctors, if you have 5 departments, for example, let me just give an illustration. You have 5 departments. These 5 departments, headed by a very senior, maybe consultant, he also needs resident doctors to work with him. If he has his full repertoire of staff, definitely you have enough people for that level. What I'm saying, or the point I'm making is, at local government level, we don't have that. We don't have that number. Everyone is headed for the tertiary. It's at the tertiary level that you find when they are talking about you. People are talking about LUT. People are talking about UCH. We have relegated the primary and secondary health institutions and fail to provide their full complement of health workers. So I'm saying, I'm not arguing that we don't have enough doctors, but my point is that even the distribution is a problem.
Right. Now, BC, before we wrap up this segment, which is nearly coming to an end, we have the issue of the brain drain, which stares us in the face, and still we are lacking, in medical personnel as we speak. So what can we do now to bring, to grow our own, so that our health personnel doesn't leave the shores, and we have enough that could cater for the number of patients that arises on a daily basis?
Well, I don't know what we can do, except if we put the right things in place. I'm even wondering where this group got their 8,000 doctors figure from. Because as far back as 2014, there is a report that 8,000 Nigerian doctors were in the US alone. So, and I'm sure that between 2014 and 2021, more will have emigrated. So, and I also know that other countries are just taking our doctors anyhow. You see, the point is that people will continue to live, and it is unfortunate. It is unfortunate because we are not taking care of our doctors. We don't see these people as being integral, as being useful to us. And these other countries, they know the value. You see, to train a doctor in Britain, for example, an house officer, you need £256,000.
That's a lot.
Yes, and to train a consultant, you need over £500,000. And we train our doctors for like about maybe an average of 4 million naira. The federal government spends that money, and mind you, it is free. In federal-owned universities, they don't pay a dime, apart from the money that you pay for accommodation and all other stuff, maybe for practical and all of that. So Nigerian government is spending a huge amount of money training these doctors. And you now ask yourself, how do you invest so much in training and you allow these people to go and other people are just taking the advantage? Look, I think the way out, when I was looking at this topic, is that let us have a law in Nigeria where government officials, once they come to power, let it be compulsory that they will assess Nigerian medical facilities. When we have that law, you will notice that they will equip our hospitals, because they know that if they are sick, that is where they will go.
They are not even investing in health.
They are not investing in health.
In every political ward, there should be a primary health center. Every ward. That's the design. But we refuse to follow the design.
I know a nurse that left Nigeria because she works in a federal government facility. The key to oxygen is kept by one person, an individual. And a lot, she was seeing people dying and she couldn't bear it. She has to relocate to UK.
Pathetic. But well, I understand we have a caller from Kaduna. Hassan, please go ahead before we wrap up the show. Hassan, can you hear me? Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, my contribution is on the healthcare delivery. And I think we need more on the part of getting doctors, just as the madam said, and also on the part of supplies. We need much more than buildings. I think I have the experience of going around the healthcare in Kaduna State, and I've had the opportunity of going around, and I've seen buildings that were built during Sardona. Those buildings, you find out that they are still in place and functional. Why? Because they've been renovated over time. And usually you find a health center in every ward in this country. Most times people, governors and local government chairmen don't improve such places and even make supplies for medications and the ventilators, you said. And other things that are very important in the hospital. But of course, we have a lot of doctors that are leaving. Let me tell you, sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes it takes a very tough one to survive, even pay transport to the hospital, and while other countries are paying them a lot of millions. So you see, it takes a patriotic Nigerian to give that sacrifice and deliver in our health sector. But of course, we need to be on top of our game, and we need to improve that sector.
And that's a fine place to leave it, Hassan.
The state, the local government, everybody needs to come together.
Absolutely.
And let's see that we improve and give our people a good health care.
Thank you very much, Hassan. Thank you for your contribution. And well, that's where we wrap up today's episode of Journalist Hangout. I'd like to thank my guest in the studio, Babajide Kolade Otitoju, as usual. Thank you very much for your insights. And Olabisi Deji Folutile, we appreciate your insights as well on the show.